Hola y bienvenidos a todos. Hi and welcome everyone to a Spanish session with me, Louise, from Speech Bubble Languages. Today's session is suitable for our Level 4 advanced learners. And in our session today, we're going to be revising how we talk about ourselves and other people, exchanging some basic details about ourselves and others. Before we get started today, let's begin with a verb bite. Aquí en la pantalla hay 3 frases en español, pero los verbos no están. On our screen, we have 3 sentences in Spanish, but the verbs have been removed. They're not there. Read each of the sentences carefully and choose which you think verb fits each of the 3 gaps from the choice of verbs below. We have ser, tener, estar, comer, and saber. Hit pause here as you work through our warm-up challenge. Well, hopefully you've got these sentences correct. We have necesitas tener talento para poder ser un artista. Trate de estar aquí a las 3 en punto. Debes tener una identificación válida para proceder. So what do those 3 sentences mean? Why not put your answers in the comments below or let your teacher know and they'll give you some feedback on how you've done. The second part of our warm-up is to choose any of the verbs from the previous task and place them onto el cronograma, our timeline. You might want to choose to write that verb out simply in the present tense, or perhaps work your way right across the timeline, giving the verb in its entirety, all 6 parts of the conjugation in each of the tenses you can see on the screen. Don't forget to share your work with your teachers so they can let you know how you're doing. Ahora vamos a hacer un poquito sobre la pregunta allí, ¿quién eres? Hablando de varios aspectos de tu vida y de la vida de los demás. So who are you? Talking about various aspects of your life and the lives of others. Empezamos con la lectura. Leemos. Let's read, shall we? Aquí en la pantalla tengo una chica. Here on my screen, I'm going to move me out of the way. We've got a girl who's telling you some pieces of information about herself. Why not read them aloud with me? El 27 de noviembre, soy uruguaya, soy de la capital Montevideo. No, vivo en una casa. ¿Está en las afueras de la ciudad? No, soy casada y tengo 2 hijos. Sí, tengo 3 hermanos. Me gusta leer novelas y escuchar música. Y finalmente, trabajo como presentadora de televisión. Now, I'm sure if you're working at a more advanced level with your Spanish, you'll have understood what each of those bubbles mean in English. However, the challenge is this. What questions would she have been asked to generate these responses? We're really good at giving information about ourselves using the first person, but when we're asked sometimes to think about the questions we need to gain information from somebody, it can hit a little stumbling block. So, over to you. ¿Cuáles son las preguntas que utilizaríamos para esa información? What are the questions that we would use to get this information? Pause the video here, take your time, and work your way through each of the sentences in turn. Shall we see how you've done then, everyone? Aquí y ahora las respuestas están a la derecha, so our answers are now on the right hand side, and the suggested questions are going to pop along the left. How did you get on? Number 1, ¿cuándo es tu cumpleaños? 2, ¿de dónde eres? 3, ¿vives en un piso? You could maybe have said vives en un apartamento or another type of home she could live in, as long as it's not a house, because she says, no, I live in a house. ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde está tu casa? Number 5, ¿eres soltera? ¿Estás soltera? Are you single? ¿Tienes hermanos? For 6. And something along the lines of ¿qué te gusta hacer en tu tiempo libre? Or ¿cuáles son tus pasatiempos? To get answer 7. With finally, ¿en qué trabajas? ¿Cuál es tu trabajo? What do you work as? To get our answer number 8. Take a moment to note down any of these questions you maybe struggled with and check that the versions you have are nice and accurate on your sheet too. What shall we do next with this information? Are you able to give the answers to those questions like the lady in our activity does? Pause the video here as you work your way through each of the questions, answering them out loud in Spanish. Use the support on the screen to help you structure your answer. Ahora vamos a escuchar. Escuchamos. Let's listen. In this next task, you're going to be listening to a little interview, un diálogo, a dialogue, where people are giving some general information about themselves. But what do they tell you about themselves? Make some notes in English. Now, be prepared. There are two speakers, a male and a female. You might want to focus on one person per playing. I'll play the audio now on one occasion, but you have control over it at your end to hit pause, to rewind and to re-listen to it as often as you need to. Escuchamos. Let's listen, shall we? Take some notes in English.
¿De dónde eres?
Yo soy de Cádiz. ¿Y tú?
Yo soy de Sevilla. Oye, ¿estás casado?
No, estoy soltero. ¿Y tú, estás casada?
Sí, yo estoy casada y vivo en Sevilla. ¿Y tú, dónde vives?
Yo vivo en Madrid. ¿Cuánto tiempo hace que vives en Sevilla?
Pues he vivido en Sevilla toda la vida. ¿Cuánto tiempo llevas viviendo en Madrid?
Yo llevo viviendo en Madrid unos 5 años. ¿Cómo es tu casa?
Pues vivo en una casa a las afueras de Sevilla que tiene 4 dormitorios y un jardín muy grande. ¿Y tu casa de Madrid cómo es?
Es un piso de 2 dormitorios, en zona céntrica. Oye, ¿trabajas?
Pues ahora estudio. ¿Y tú, trabajas?
Sí, yo estoy trabajando.
¿De dónde eres?
Muy bien todos. I hope you managed to get lots of details there in terms of the diálogo or dialogue on the screen now. You'll see the transcript of what you've just heard. Take some time to study the transcript, comparing it with the information that you heard about each of the speakers. If you have any questions, pop a note through to your teacher or in the comments below, and we will do our very best to help you with any queries that you might have. Vamos ahora a la gramática. Let's move on to the grammar part of our session. We are going to do a 1, 2, 3 conjugation activity now. On the left hand side, you'll see some common verbs that we use to talk about aspects of our lives and the lives of others. We have ser and estar, tener, trabajar, vivir, llamarse, and gustar. Do you know the first, second, and third persons singular of each of these key verbs? As previous, if you're working at an advanced level, I'm hoping that these will come to you quite quickly. Hit the pause button here as you try to fill out each section of the verbs with the first, second, and third. So we have soy, eres, and es, estoy, estás, está, tengo, tienes, and tiene, trabajo, trabajas, trabaja, vivo, vives, vive, me llamo, te llamas, se llama, and to finish off, me gusta, te gusta, or le gusta, remembering to add an N if the thing that you like is plural. Me gustan, te gustan, and le gustan. Don't forget that the third column there, the third person singular, is also the second person in the polite format, the usted. Ya es la hora de hablar. It's time to talk. So now that we know how to give information about ourselves and to understand information about other people's lives, how would we use our Spanish to introduce a friend to some other Spanish speakers? There are 2 ways of doing this in Spanish, one a little bit more simpler than the other. Let's practice them. The first way to introduce a friend would be to say, te presento a. Te presento a. You would then use os presento a, I present to you or introduce to you, if the people you are talking to are a larger group. So I'm talking to one person and introducing my friend. Te presento a mi amiga. I'm talking to one person and I'm introducing a group of my friends. Te presento a mis amigas. I'm then talking to a couple of people, introducing one friend. Os presento a mi amiga. Talking to a group and introducing lots of other friends. Os presento a mis amigas. The other way of introducing people is to use a form of este. Este or esta, this is. Estos, estas, these are. Este es, if you're introducing one male person. Esta es, one female. Estos son, group of people, either purely males or a mix of gender. Estas son, introducing a group of females. What do you think would be your favourite way of introducing somebody to another person in Spanish? Choose your favourite and why not try to write it out in Spanish? Think about the last trip that you went on. Who did you travel with? If you bumped into a Spanish-speaking friend, how would you introduce the people that you were travelling with? Finalmente vamos a escribir. It's time to write our final skill for our session. Here we have un amigo, Raúl, our friend Raúl, and we're going to use the knowledge that we've learned from our class today to write a summary of this person. There are some key language points on the screen to help you generate your sentences. In the example you'll see I've begun with Te presento a Raúl. Let me introduce you to Raúl. Es de Colombia. Third person of ser. He is from Colombia. What about that other information there? What would your summary look like? Pop it in the comments below, or alternatively, snap a photo and send it through to your class teacher for feedback. Ya estamos al final. We've reached the end of our short lesson. As a challenge for today's lesson, can you prepare an answer to the question, ¿Quién eres? So who are you? Can you talk for 1 minute in Spanish? As an additional one, why not try to describe a friend, a family member, or maybe your favourite celeb? You could even share a photo of them as well. Don't forget to share your work with your class teacher or pop some information or comments below so that we can join our learning journey together. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Thanks everyone for joining us today on our session. Y hasta la próxima. And until next time, adiós.